We're gonna get started. All right, so sorry, my system was telling me I'm getting an error, and I'm like, uh-oh. So thank you once again for joining us today for our MicroAge Talks Technology webinar. My name is Maria Fiore, and I'm the Director of Operations here for MicroAge, and I'm joined by Sergio Lima, Director of Customer Success. Sergio, welcome.
Hello, welcome. Welcome, everyone.
Today's conversation will focus on the end of Windows 10 support that we've been talking about, and we're going to continue to talk about, and we'll tell you why that's important. So before we begin, here's a few housekeeping notes. First, as I'm sure you've all noticed, all attendees are muted, and that's really to reduce any background noise. We encourage you to ask questions throughout the presentation by using the questions panel of the webinar tool. The webinar is being recorded, and you'll be receiving the link to the recording and to the ebook that we're making available to everyone a little later today. We encourage you to download the ebook and re-listen to the recording or share the link with colleagues that may benefit from today's information. Lastly, at the end of the webinar, you will be receiving a short 3-question survey to gather your feedback. Please take a moment to share your feedback with us so that we can improve future webinars. But before I hand it over to Sergio, I'm just going to take a moment to give you a brief overview of who we are for those who may not know MicroAge. So we are a Canadian technology service provider with 40 locations across Canada. We've been providing IT services and solutions to our clients for over 44 years. We strongly believe that to truly be a partner, we need to understand your organization. We need to understand your operations, your clients, your people, your goals, your challenges, your opportunities. Understanding your organization helps us recommend and provide the IT services and solutions that are right for you. So that's a quick overview of who we are and how we engage with our clients. And with that, Sergio, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Maria. Hello, everyone. We are, I was going to say October, but we are February 13th.
Oh boy, don't scare us like that.
Yeah, and as of tomorrow, you have exactly 8 months to think about your Windows 10 to Windows 11, because on October 14th, 2025, Microsoft has announced that their end of support for Windows 10 is in force, which means, well, we'll look at some of the, what does it involve? What are the implications? What are the risks? What are your vulnerabilities? What are the options that you have to upgrade from Windows 10 to Windows 11? How to plan it? How to identify the machines? We'll go through all of that today. Hopefully it'll give you some insight. Actually, the first thing we're going to start with is, what does that mean when Microsoft says it is an end of support, when an operating system becomes end of support? The biggest reason should be top of mind security updates. So they will cease to publish free security and critical roll-ups, updates, feature updates, you name it, all of their updates. They will stop providing any of that, except for one little exception, which I will explain in the next slides with regards to security and critical updates. But the main thing you should be looking at is Microsoft will stop the development of new features, the fixing of bugs. So as mentioned on the slide, any software bugs, performance issues discovered at the end of support will remain unresolved. So it leads to the possibility of your systems being unstable, loss of productivity, etc. Feature updates. Windows 10 is stable. I mean, it's mature, but there will be no more new features being released for Windows 10. So there may be an impact on your organization with, maybe some of those enhancements in the past were used to improve productivity. Some of it was stability of the operating system. All of those things cease to exist or to be published by Microsoft. But again, the most important one is the security updates. Why? Because cyber criminals will not stop on October 14. But they will actually get even, I would say that there'd be more, they'll be busier trying to exploit the operating system because of the fact that some people won't be patching their machines, will not have maybe possibly purchased the, what we're going to talk about later, the extension to the support for you to get the security and the critical updates. So obviously, because Microsoft stops doing any of that development, that's when the cyber criminals kick in and try and find vulnerabilities to exploit your machines, to get into your machines, and then eventually get into your network and cause havoc and a disaster in your network.
And they're
Same, this is
quite,
pretty much the same conversation as we've had many years, right? From Windows XP to Windows 7 to 8 to Windows 10 and now to Windows 11.
I was going to say, and they're going to be motivated, right? Because there's millions and millions of devices out there that have Windows 10, and they're not all going to be updated by October 14th.
Correct.
That's almost certain. So yeah, they're going to be quite motivated. So
That's right. So you have three options for you as a business to upgrade to Windows 11. First of all, Microsoft is offering the free upgrades to Windows 11 if your device meets the minimum system requirements, right, for the upgrade. So if you're performing an upgrade of your current devices, there is a link that, if you, I don't think our link works there, but Maria will send you over the Microsoft link that gives you reference to the minimum system requirements, so you can compare with the machines that you have in place, whether or not these are machines that will work with Windows 11, or they may just be machines that require additional hard drive space, additional memory. These are things that are also an option for you to put in place for machines that just, simply need extra resources instead of having to replace the entire machine. But in the case where if you may have machines that are completely incompatible, system board, CPU, things of that nature, older machines, obviously, some of us maybe are running machines that are 7, 8 years old. You may want to consider looking at option number 2, which is the purchasing of new machines with Windows 11 already built in, obviously, because Windows 10 is no longer supported and no longer offered as a license. And then what I mentioned before, the extended security updates program. So if you have specific applications that will not work with Windows 11, and I specify stuff that will not work with, that you've tested that does not work with Windows 11 and only works with Windows 10, yet you're worried about the Windows 10 to 11 issue and you really don't want to be, stranded with Windows 10 without any updates. There's a program in place that Microsoft allows for you to buy a SKU. I guess it's a license for you to be able to receive critical and security updates continuously. So they will continue to do some of it. But again, there won't be any feature updates, new development, additional stuff. And one thing we didn't mention in the earlier webinar, Maria, is that there's no support as well. So as of October 14th, 2025, if you call Microsoft still running Windows 10 without your SKU, there's a chance that they will, well, it's not a chance, they won't help you anymore. There's no
well,
technical support left for Windows 10.
well, you did some research because we do this webinar in French
Yeah.
earlier in the day, and somebody mentioned, that they heard that Microsoft 365 won't work as of October 14th on Windows 10. And you did the research, and that's absolutely right. If you call them and you have a problem with your Microsoft 365, they will
Yeah.
not support
So
it.
the applications are business as usual. They will continue to work
Yes, yes.
endlessly. They don't have a deadline of October 14th and the app stops working. No, they will continue to work. However, if you call Microsoft support for your Office 365 and you're running on Windows 10, they will not support you. They will pretty much say you need to upgrade your OS to Windows 11 for me to be able to help you with your Office application issue. So something to note of.
Yeah, and just on the link. So what I forgot to mention earlier is that if you want a copy of the presentation, we do have it. It's in the handout section of the webinar tool. But what I noticed was that the links are not clickable on the PDF. They used to be. I don't know what happened. So I'll have to call tech support and see what they
You're
tell me.
running Windows 10?
No, I'm wanting Windows 11. But anyway, so what I'm doing is I'm putting the links that you're going to see throughout the presentation in the chat so that you have access to them. I apologize. We're going to try to see what we can do to fix that for the next webinar.
Now, your third option is always something viable. We're not absolutely forcing you to buy new machines or absolutely forcing you to upgrade all your machines. Baby steps. There's an analysis and a planning of all of this, which we'll explain. But you may have an instance of an application that absolutely only runs on Windows 10 and below. let's say for argument's sake, it runs on Windows 10 but doesn't run on Windows 11. We have options for that. So you're not absolutely forced to go to Windows 11, but there's ways of making it work for you, fits your plan, fits your strategy, fits your budget, obviously, because if you have a percentage of machines that need to be either replaced or upgraded, budget-wise, you have to make sure that it fits your budget. Otherwise, but there are options with the SKU for ESU. And we don't have Canadian pricing yet, but we have US pricing, and it looks like somewhere around $61 US per device for the first year. So what that gives you is the ability to continuously up whatever critical and security updates that Microsoft releases that will continue to release. You'll have access to them. Year 2 will go to 122 USD, and year 3 will go to 244 USD, and that's again per device per year. So it may become expensive for you to run an older operating system, whereas Microsoft's giving you Windows 11 for free now. So you may want to take advantage of that.
The other thing that we're not completely clear on is when they will make this SKU available.
Correct.
So it seems like from all the literature we've read, it's somewhere, but October, November timeframe. But we don't know for sure. So if you're looking for that SKU, talk to us,
Yeah.
and we'll try to keep you updated as to when it's available.
My
But yeah.
suspicions are that they're waiting as late as possible in the hopes that everybody will go to Windows 11 and not settle for an ESU SKU.
After all these years, they should know better, but yeah.
Yeah. So let's look at some benefits. Obviously, we talk about security as the first benefit. Windows 11 takes full advantage of the TPM 2.0, the Trusted Platform Module. So it's a chip that's on the system board that allows for the system and the OS to work together to be able to encrypt your data, to be able to secure it properly. I mean, there's other features that they've added in terms of security. They mentioned they have some kind of an anti-virus/malware engine in there. Again, it's for us, we see this as a basic type of malware protection and antivirus protection, but it's not a true antivirus protection. But the TPM 2.0 allows for you to have the ability to lock your machine in certain ways and to ensure that it's that right user, specifically for things like Windows Hello, which allows for users to log in via facial recognition or with a PIN instead of having to remember that long password that they're supposed to be putting, minimum 12 characters, etc. Right? So once you get to 12 characters and you have multiple systems, becomes difficult for you to remember some of these passwords. I use the facial recognition, and it works fantastically. To the point where I forgot my login password. That's how it works, and it uses that along with your Azure and your AD, and it synchronizes all your logins so that it pretty much ensures that it's me logging into my machine and not someone else. So that kind of helps. And then they have the virtualization-based security, VBS as they call it, which sort of isolates the applications that are running within your OS. So if you're a power user or any user in the past when you were running Windows XP 7, 8, and even 10, you may have had instances where some applications stop working, freeze, don't respond properly, and as a result, the rest of your system and the rest of your applications become slow and things don't work and windows don't pop up and they become blank. Windows 11 does a really, really good job at isolating these applications. And when something goes wrong with one specific app, well, it doesn't affect any of your other apps. So instead of spending that 10 minutes of having to force all your applications to stop and then have to restart your machine, hope that everything works, it does a better job of keeping your users functional for the moment until that application comes back to life or restarts itself, etc. Second benefit is the continued support and compliance. So you may have some regulations, so non-compliance with industry regulations or organizations like healthcare, finance, legal, and that's just a few of them, right? There's strict standards, there's requirements. Some of these organizations absolutely require for you to be up to date with your operating system, with certain security features that are in place. So obviously Windows 11, as the operating system versions go up, the requirements go up for all of these regulatory and standards, which in turn, obviously, you'll fall behind and then leaves you, exposed to vulnerabilities. The fact that you're not getting any of the patches are a problem. If you're dealing with cyber insurers, obviously they will eventually start enforcing a certain level of Windows operating system within your environment. So if you're running something like Windows 10 after October 14th, there's a chance that the cyber insurers will put that on their list of mandatory requirements for them to be able to insure you. So that, again, food for thought on there's benefits, and a lot of times you'll be behind the eight ball on some of these things if you want to move forward with your business. Now they have productivity tools. Obviously, it's these are nice to have. Bells and whistles of Windows 11. You can do a search on the web and you can find all kinds of new gadgets and new things that Windows 11 provides for you to be a bit more productive as an employee, as a user. I like the snap layouts and the snap groups, which gives you the ability. Again, you may be limited to one extra screen or no screens. This could be useful for developers as well when they're running script and stuff, or an application's running in the background, but they want to be able to see it. You can actually snap your, let's say, 2, 3, 4 applications within your window. So it's tiled, I guess, like in your window. And it lets you focus on several apps at the same time instead of having to do your switch all the time and then switch to your application. So that kind of helps people that don't have that many screens. Depends on your environment. I've seen environments that employees have up to 3, 4 screens each, and I've seen others where they just have that that single one screen that could possibly help them for workflow efficiency and being able to see things right off the bat. Another part of the productivity tools are virtual desktops. So if you're the person that wants to run an application separate from your existing Windows 11, you maybe have a sandbox environment, you may be running an application that you're testing, you don't necessarily want to put it with the rest of your applications that are installed, you have the ability to turn on a virtual desktop running Windows 11, separate from your instance of what you have right now, and run tests with applications, run it as a separate desktop, etc. So developers like that, obviously. And the biggest advantage that I see with that is that you have the flexibility to spin up a Windows 10 virtual machine within your Windows 11 machine. So if you've upgraded to Windows 11, I can turn on a virtual machine running Windows 10 specifically because one of my applications only runs on Windows 10, and you can run that within your virtual desktop. So that's kind of a workaround to possibly moving forward to Windows 11, but being limited because of a specific application. You don't want to hinder all of your operations, so you move forward with the Windows 11, so the security is there and everything else. But you still have your older application for now until you figure out what to do with it. You can have it running in a virtual desktop in Windows 10 until you figure out what to do with that application.
So, Sergio, is it still at risk though?
Yes, it is. So if you spin up a Windows 10 machine inside your Windows 11, your Windows 10 machine still requires a proper antivirus. And by antivirus, I mean endpoint detection and response, something with, as they call next-gen antivirus, something that tracks behavior, obviously. So you need to protect it like you're running 2 separate machines.
Okay.
So you still need security protection. And if you run it past October 14th, you'll have to buy the SKU, the ESU SKU, for you to be able to apply critical and security updates. Otherwise, you'll be back in the same boat with all the other Windows 10 machines, whereas it's not updated and it becomes a risk and a point of exploit for cyber criminals. Now, one thing I like with Windows 11, it's a while I've been running it, and the main focus sessions to be more productive. I have to admit, I am I'd like to be more productive. I just don't have the time to work on all of these gadgets to make me more productive. So that's kind of counter going
Oxymoron.
against the oxymoron. Yeah. So there's a lot of features that you can activate within Windows 11. Do not disturb, suppress some of your alerts. Example, I'm getting teamed by someone while I'm working on a Word document and the pop-up comes up and, oh, okay, well, it's not important, but you know what? Somebody teams me, so I'm going to reply to him now, and I just forgot about my Word document. And while I'm doing that, I see a pop-up for an email that just came in that catches my attention. So now I'm in my Outlook and I'm replying to an email, and then that turns into something else that I have to look at. So I'm all over the place. And at the end of the day, I've done nothing because I haven't been very productive because I'm not focusing on what I should have been done, my task that I should have been done for the day. So what I did was I'm suppressing some of my alerting and notifications, and you can play with some of those taskbar features and stuff to allow for you to concentrate on what you're doing versus always looking over for a pop-up that appeared and then that instantly distracts you. Instantly. Can't say it doesn't distract you. I won't believe you. And then there's the future proofing, which is upgrading to Windows 11 positions yourselves as long-time growth for aligning your IT infrastructure, future advancements. Windows 11 is built specifically for it to be ready for cloud integration. So cloud services are in mind. Better integration with applications like Microsoft 365 or any cloud-based services. It's ready for the next generation, I guess, where everyone's going to cloud. And it also allows for support of the modern hardware that's coming. So vendors seem to be ahead of the curve when compared to operating system. They always have the latest and greatest technology that comes out, but it doesn't mean that Microsoft always has their operating system ready for that technology. And Windows 11 takes advantage of a lot more than what Windows 10 had with the hardware at the time. So again, an advantage is it'll be able to have you'll be able to have a machine that's much more powerful performance-wise, much more solid, much more stable, and that's some of the benefits for moving to Windows 11. So how do you want to do this? What do you want to start planning your transition now, right? You need to assess the environment. So as of October, it seems far, but it's not. And the reason why I say it, you'll notice in the next couple of slides why you should be thinking about this right now. It's not a simple install of a new operating system or migration. You need to take several things into consideration. You have to create a plan, that's customized to your organization. And you need to assess your current environment. So the first step in any transition is to understand the scope of the work, what you have in place. It takes a bit of time. How many machines I'm looking at, what can be upgraded, what needs to be changed, what specific people am I deploying at a certain time? Let's not just press an on button and everybody gets migrated because you're just asking for trouble at the end of that. If you haven't tested anything, specifically the last point, if you have any legacy applications, absolutely need to be tested. So you're looking at, possibly having one or several machines running Windows 11 where you can test in advance your applications with some users, proof of concept style. And that starts your planning, right? Now, as you're collecting the information of all your machines and all your versions and hardware and software and compatibility, it would be nice to have one or several machines or users that already have Windows 11 test some of this stuff so that you're ready for the next phase. And obviously that's this slide here, which is assess the compatibility of your applications. So what applications are required? What applications need to be replaced? Will they work with Windows 11? Because they may work with Windows 11, but you need to test those, right? Is there support from the vendor of this application available if you were to install this on Windows 11? That's a very important point because similar to Office 365, not getting any more support from Microsoft if you're running it on Windows 10, you may have vendors that won't, and this is a vice versa. You may have vendors that won't support you if you've put it on a Windows 11 machine, and you may have vendors that will not support you if you're not upgrading their version while you're on Windows 11. So you have to have that conversation with someone who's supporting your third-party applications. And if you have any specialized or custom-built apps, obviously, again, you need to take a look at that, identify them, and run some tests. Start customizing a migration strategy. So once there's a clear understanding of your environment, the next step is to craft a transition plan that'll minimize downtime or disruption for your users. Scheduling this, obviously, you have to coordinate it properly. You may want to go with migrating specific departments one at a time, see if that works. So as an example, if you have an accounting department with accounting software, that's one strategy or one plan, one transition that you'll do first. And then test it and see how that goes, and then plan the next one and move forward, right? So you have to, the goal is to minimize your downtime, is to minimize disruption. It has to be scheduled as a project. It can't be just, let's just decide to upgrade Windows 11 next week and see how it goes. You may not have the right resources to support after the fact, and you may have issues with some of your applications, and now you've migrated over, and now you have to revert back. So it becomes complicated. Please don't forget to train and support your users. A lot of customers we know decide to migrate to a new operating system in the hopes that their users or employees will be much more productive, just like that. Well, it doesn't work like that. You have to train your users. So find any available training for your employees so that they can be aware of the new operating system coming, so that they can learn how to take advantage of some of the features that that they take advantage of the Windows Hello, and that they take advantage of maybe the layouts, the features, some of the things that could make them a little bit more productive, including the pop-ups and stuff to make them a bit more productive. So these are things that they need to be aware. You can't just decide to switch them on Friday night and Monday morning they come in and hope that everybody will be more productive. It's actually counterproductive. It'll be worse before it gets better. So it's always good to have a little bit of training for your employees. They need to adapt to it. So what I've seen with some of our customers is they've implemented a couple of Windows 11 machines in a little isolated room, and some of their employees have reserved some time and they can go in and take a look at the operating system, again, to become familiar with the new look and feel. So that they're comfortable once their machine has Windows 11. And obviously it avoids productivity slowdowns with all of that. I didn't talk about the support, but doing this type of transition, if you train your people properly, you'll end up getting less support calls. Because they'll figure out certain things that, if they would have known certain things, they wouldn't have called you for that support. So that kind of helps your support staff, whether you have internal staff or us as your managed service provider. Obviously that'll lower the noise. That's the goal of all of this, is to lower the amount of noise for the support afterwards. Now, let's look at the planning. Why do you want to plan beforehand? For many reasons. Can I start backwards, Maria? I start
You can
point
start
6.
anywhere you want, Sergio.
The longer you wait, the harder it is to find hardware. And I'll explain. We are now already getting requests for Windows 11 machines by customers, and distribution and manufacturers are their inventory is starting to go down, which means that the longer you wait to that deadline, the less chance you'll have if you have to replace a certain amount of machines. You will not have machines available that you want. You may be stuck with certain versions, certain models that you don't want, or have to wait several months for the inventory to come back up for you to get it. So the more you wait, the harder it is to get the hardware that you require for the machines that you need to replace. And I'm also talking about RAM and hard drives, but mainly the machines themselves. Okay, so you want to think about that now, so that you don't run the risk of in September deciding to migrate and you don't have the machines for the migration.
Yeah,
Obviously, we have.
A reminder that there are millions of Windows 10 out there, hundreds of millions. I can't remember what the exact number, but it's in the hundreds of millions. So there's a lot of people who want hardware. Who are going to want hardware.
Yeah. So now let's go back up to point number 1, the risk mitigation. So obviously, if you start early, you'll be able to lower the risk earlier than having to deal with security vulnerabilities, application and compatibility issues, compliance concerns, etc. The later you start, the more problems will pile on for you to have to fix. and then it becomes chaotic. So obviously, transition a bit at a time. If you can start this early, it would really, really help in terms of productivity and being able to minimize that noise again. Budget optimization. So obviously starting early allows you to spread the cost maybe across several months, into the next year instead of rushing and having that but one big bill in September, having to do it all in one shot. So you're buying hardware, you're maybe paying someone to get that job done, or internally it's costing you a couple of resources to get that migration done. And that's taking them away from their daily tasks, which means something else is not being done within your environment. So that's a bit of a problem when everything is rushed at the end of the date. And that, of course, obviously is the customizing of, customize your migration plan so that you have the ability to schedule your updates and your rollouts and minimize the disruption of your operations instead of having to do all your machines or all your users at the same time, and then stuck with a bunch of fires and, a little bit at a time so you can handle whatever comes your way. And you'll be ready. And by the end of the year, you will have transitioned properly with minimal disruption. And while you're doing this, obviously, you're testing and optimization. So phased rollout allows you to test specific departments, users, applications. A bit at a time, you encounter certain problems, you can fix them, you can speak to vendors, you may be able to upgrade your applications that don't work on Windows 11. You may find another way to get it to work. Example, a Windows 10 virtual environment running within your Windows 11. There are different ways for you to come up with solutions, and it's always similar to like an incident response, I guess. When you get hit with a cyber incident, you don't really have the time to do all at once because you're in panic mode. And if you have a plan, it really comes out well. I mean, you get things done properly. Same concept. If you plan it properly, then you won't have all those fires all in one shot. And obviously, if you don't have the expertise in-house, or if your resources are doing other things and you want them to focus on those other tasks, well, obviously there's service providers that can help you with that.
But I think the big message too is that if you work with either a service provider or internally and you plan for this, then you do it on your own schedule, in your own time frame, so that it works within your business. Maybe you're really, really busy in the summertime, so you want to get it done, now. Maybe it's the opposite, or whatever that looks like. You control it as opposed to being controlled by the process, right? It makes it more difficult. So
it's a good example. We have schools that are planning right now, so they're doing the next step, which I will click now. So they're doing this slide here, inventorying. So they're doing the inventorying of systems, identifying which machines are compatible, which machines need to be replaced. They're planning all of that. They're budgeting. And with us, some of the schools, their budget starts July 1st. So unfortunately, they have no choice but to wait till July 1st. But obviously, we work with them to try and reserve stock, et cetera. So there's things that we can do with our customers to try and help them out. And then during the summer months, let's say July and August, they've planned the migration across several departments or several admin people. And they're taking it that way so that when school year starts, September, they're ready to go. So they're not waiting for October, because that's not really a good time to be upgrading your systems in a school year.
disruptive, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good example. But we have, unfortunately, it's a manual task. Obviously, the link we gave you will give you the Microsoft minimum requirements for Windows 11. What you have to do afterwards is take a look at your inventory. Hopefully, you have some kind of tool that gives you that inventory. And then you have to compare, do all my machines fit the requirements? Are they compatible? If so, do I still need to replace a hard drive? Do I need to add memory? If they're not compatible, how many machines are we talking about? So you have to look at all of that.
Plus the
I mean,
applications, right?
yes, plus the applications. So again, test the key applications. So we run for our managed customers, we run scripts that's able to compare the minimum requirements versus what they have in place. Why? Because we're managing their environments. Now, you may not have a managed service provider in place, but you may have some tools that'll give you an inventory. Perfect. Again, you may have the expertise or technician that can build scripts to run that comparison. If not, you'll have to run that comparison of let's look at my devices and let's look at which one doesn't fit Windows 11, and then let's take a decision on the manage. The management needs to take a decision on what has to be done on these specific machines, and that includes obviously the applications, right? These applications, the vendor will say that it may work with Windows 11, so good, we have to test it. But they may say that it doesn't work or hasn't been tested with Windows 11, so you have to come up with some kind of a solution to roll that out or to test it. And develop your rollout plan, obviously. So phased upgrade is always the best recommended. But again, if you want to try it all at large, go for it. But I'm just saying I haven't seen any good any good results from a full Windows 11 migration. It's always best to have it in stages or by departments, by a number of users, you name it. Anything works as long as it's not at large. It's becomes complicated when it's all done at the same time. And communicate that information over to your employees, right? Not to leave them in the dark and then have them show up and have Windows 11 and then things don't work and then they don't know how to, where's the Windows button and why is it in the middle? I wanted it on the left. Like that, you don't need that call. If you train your employees properly, they will know that if they like the Windows 10 look and feel, you can take a Windows 11 OS and grab that center Windows button and move it over back to the left or to the right the way they liked it, right? So that we can do that, but you don't want your employees calling your technicians for that. They should be able to do that on their own.
And on that note, Wayne says that on the training and communication side, it's like he came in one day and he got a new Windows 11 machine. The good news was it wasn't too much different from what he had, and he still, in his case, I guess he needed still access to applications that won't run on Windows 11, so they gave him the RDP, but it was a surprise. So
Yep.
well,
Yep.
sometimes it's okay, but sometimes not so much. We have another question from Eric, and I don't know, Sergio, but can a Windows 10 IoT device be upgraded the same way as a Windows 10 Pro PC, laptop, or Windows 11 Pro, if it
Oh,
meets requirements?
that's a good question. You have to refer to the vendor for that. You have to check to the specific vendor that sold you that machine. And I listen. All OSs, all versions of always had Microsoft always found a way to get the next version into the IoT devices eventually. But yeah, you'd have to speak to if it's a reputable vendor, let's call it tier one vendors, Lenovo, HP, Dell, etc. These are all, they work very well with Microsoft, and I'm sure if it's not already released, they're in the process of releasing the latest versions of IoT, Win 11 IoT OSs. So it shouldn't be a problem. So I don't know, but I don't have the full answer to that. That's a tricky one. You have to always, that comes to the question of test the key applications, right? We say applications, but you may have to test your IoT devices entirely, right?
That's true.
Along with
Yeah.
its OS and the app and the hardware that's running on it, if it works with Windows 11. But Microsoft, I know Microsoft does not give you free upgrade to Windows 11 on IoT. I believe you have to deal with the vendor for that.
Hmm.
I may be wrong, but I don't think it's offered for free.
But we have captured your question, Eric. So
Yeah.
um,
And historically speaking, we've been upgrading our customers to Windows 11 for the past several years, and I have to say that phased approach, planned either by X number of users, by percentage of machines, by department, works very well to diminish the disruptions, the support calls. All of that works really well versus doing an all-out Windows 11 upgrade all in one shot. Um, we've had a couple of those, and they create a lot of chaos. But, for a while until it stabilizes. So it's always good to plan it in advance.
excellent.
Any questions
Uh,
after that? No. So what you need to do, and what I've been trying to say, is that you need to start your plan now, because you have exactly 8 months and 1 day before that support ends. And again, free critical and security updates, all of the roll-ups, all of the feature enhancements, all of that stops. Technical support by Microsoft support personnel stops as well. All of the feature enhancements, all development stops. And if you want to continue running Windows 10, it's not going to stop. It'll continue to run. If you want to run Office 365 on Windows 10, it will continue to run. But you would at least need to have your ESU to get that critical and security patch updates there. And you have to assume the risk, I guess, and take ownership that if you're running Windows 10, then their technical support will not be available for you. So if you need to call somebody for Windows 10, it has to be someone other than Microsoft because they won't be able to help you. And for example, if you were to call our technicians and we're trying to figure something out with a problem on a machine, we're limited as well. It's not because I'm a service provider that I have better access to Microsoft than you do.
Yeah.
They won't support us. They told us it's like you need to push your clients to go to Windows 11 or I can't help you.
Yeah. Between a rock and a hard place. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Microsoft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, it is Microsoft, that we know. All right. Thank you, Sergio, for that. Like we promised, we do have a free ebook that we're making available to everybody. I'm just putting in the link in the chat. So if you want to go download it, you can. Other than that, if we don't have any questions, I saw, Penny, that you're having issues with the audio. You probably can't hear me, but I'm not sure how to help you, so sorry. But if there are no other questions, then
I think she can request a download afterwards, right? And she'll probably be able to
yeah,
hear it. Yeah. Okay.
she can't, again, she can't hear me,
Yeah.
but yes, we will be setting the recording so she can definitely get all the different pieces of this webinar, so she has all the information. But yeah, if there's no other questions, then we'll say thank you for joining us today. Again, we encourage you to download the ebook and reach out to your local MicroAge with any questions. Our next MicroAge Talks Technology webinar is scheduled for March 13th, and we will be focusing in on what's new with Microsoft Copilot. Yes, another Microsoft product.
I forgot to mention that Windows 11 has great integration with Copilot. So if you're looking at Copilot, you absolutely need Windows 11.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so keep an eye out on your emails and our social media channels for the invite. Other than that, Dave, thank you for being here. And with that, again, Sergio, thank you for the presentation. Always informative. And then thanks to all of you for spending time with us today. And we wish you everyone a great rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.